So another way to do a scale drawing, which we can do now because of all the computer stuff we got, is you can use an aerial photo or you can use a plat plan. You're going to print something out at whatever is a comfortable size for you to put notations on it. And that you can do at either by using a photo editing program like
PowerPoint
or
Photoshop.
Photoshop, or if you go to a commercial copier, the FedEx stores near us, for instance, have a plotter. They have that will copy blueprints. So if you call someplace and say, "Can you copy a blueprint?" and if they say yes, then that's the place you want to go because you can take a letter-sized piece of paper and feed it into the plotter using their enlargement feature, and you can make it bigger. You can say, "I want to make this twice as big," or "I want to make this 3 times as big." Or you can also print out a section at a time and tape them together. Yeah, you can make them smaller too. So a plat plan just tells you your distances. Sometimes it'll show you your house on the property too. Ours doesn't. We had to kind of figure that out on our own. But these Google images from above are what are really great. That's a plat plan that Steve's pointing to right now for the same property that you see there. It's acreage that's very long and narrow and very wooded. The aerial view on the right is a more standard suburban lot. Not a particularly standard house, but a standard suburban lot. And those things, you can start from that and make a copy of it and determine the scale. Now, the scale is a thing that you have to figure out from your, make it the size that's comfortable to you, and then identify something in the picture that has a dimension that you know.
No.
Maybe it's how wide your driveway is. Maybe it's how long your garage is or how wide a walkway is. Put a ruler on the paper and measure how far that is, how big that is on the plat plan or on your picture, and that can help you figure out the scale. So if the walkway is a ½ inch wide on your picture, and in life you know that's 4 feet, and you know I've got a 1:8 scale here because every ½ inch is 4 feet, so every inch is 8 feet.
You always hope for that.
Yeah, you hope for that.
I always hope for easy.
Or you can do some things with, you can cheat a little bit. I checked to make sure that this seemed accurate. I measured the driveway and then measured the picture too. You can put tracing paper over the whole thing. And you can say, okay, I just need to be able to do, we were telling Carolyn and Pat what to do in this area that it's like a big, huge rain garden. That's all I need to know is the area between the driveway and where that, where the rocks are gonna go, because we're working with a contractor who came in with a big machine to move the rocks around. And I did that by putting a piece of tracing paper on top of that drawing and tracing the driveway.
Tracing paper is really good stuff.
Yes, it is. And once you've got something on a piece of paper, that's when you can take your ruler and say, okay, right there, that's 42 feet and 6 feet west, because 42 feet on a scale of 1 to 10. Every inch is 10 feet. So 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet, 42 is right there.
45 is right there.
And I go 6 feet over to the side and I can mark where the edge of that path is and lay out your path. It's not easy to put things where they, it's not always easy to lay these things out, but it's important to lay them out, because if you drew them on paper and figured that that particular plant was going to take up that much room, if that path is 3 feet over to the side, that you're in danger of losing your combination that you put together right here or you put together right over there.
Yep.
So and this is why I generally want to use paper that fits on a clipboard, because after I've got a design done, now I've got a copy of the design on my clipboard. I sit down inside with a ruler, measure to these important points, make my notes of where they are, and then I go out and put the tape measure out again and mark them. Put stakes in the ground and mark where they go. So you can put flags out there, you can put string or rope on the ground.
Stakes,
and once you do that, you say, okay, and tape measure will work to do this. You will look and say, okay, does that look good to me from this angle? Does it look good to me from that angle? And we have another article, I knew it was in there someplace, because you reminded me that Ann and
Yeah.
Geno's we had.
Yeah.
But I've got 2 tape measures pulled out straight from the house. I marked my points, and now I've outlined with another tape measure the whole bed that's going to go in there. But I stuck sticks in the ground, 2 measurements like that, 67 feet, 4 feet. Just keep walking along and putting a stake in the ground, and then walked around and outlined the whole thing so we could look at it and see if that was right.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes you can do some fun stuff too on that long, narrow acreage where she has a tour on a regular basis for a fundraiser for a charity. We thought it would be really neat for people to have a map. And she has all kinds of paths, walking paths through those woods and over bridges and around beds. It's a beautiful property, and people just wander around in there. They might miss things because it's such a big property. So what was important for us was, let's get the paths marked in there. She even has the paths named. She has little markers with the names that this is the bluebird path.
Bluebird path and bluebell.
So what we wanted was this drawing that showed the paths. And at the time, Steve was using a GPS tool for fishing that would give him a little sketch of where he had trolled his boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, give me that thing. And I walked the paths wearing this thing. So I walked the first path, the pink one. And then I recorded the squiggle that it made. Then I walked the next path, the orange one. And I recorded the squiggle that it made. And then I stretched those with you can do it with PowerPoint, or Keynote, or you can do it with Photoshop. I stretched those to meet the known points where I knew the orange path started, so that it started in the right place and it turned at the right place to go across the water. And said, there, we can figure this out this way. So we drew the paths in, and the paths are marked in here where things are. So it's kind of fun to do this. We played around with this up in Vermont with Celia and John's place. Walk with your GPS locator and map your and I think there's an app you can use on your phone now.
Yeah, your phone will do it too. But they're cool.
And that is all I got.
You hit it. We have 5 minutes left for questions. Hooray!
I always try to put too much in, and actually this is too much because people are saying I'm never going to do that. But we tried to put everything into the note-taking guide with illustrations so that you can sit down at the table and see if you can do that for yourself. It is wonderful to be able to say, here's my garden, and rather than having a binder full of plant tags that go to some mystical place in the sky in the garden, you've got an actual record of what's where.
I should also explain I'm not actually being facetious about the celebratory ending on time. In 2 of my 3 lectures, I am routinely 20 to 30 minutes over a 2-hour lecture slot. So I am very pleased and envious at hitting a time mark.
We don't
do that very often.
It's easier to do when you've done it regularly. You, like Sonia, change your class all the time.
This is true.
We've almost never done the same talk twice, but if you do it enough times, you at least know whether you've bollocksed it with too much stuff. Yeah.
All right. So we have a question from Stacy. If you were adding a low retaining wall or a stone edging that has a small slope, would you use these same techniques to determine how much stone is needed? I have a small garden on each side of my driveway that currently has a dry stacked shale edging. I'm hoping to change this year since shale is aging. I need to figure out height from each side. One side has a bigger slope to the yard than the other side.
You can draw, and I'm sorry, I totally forgot about asking Steve for the picture of the slope, because I draw them as if they're flat, because they're still going to take as many things on there. But you do need to know slope, and for knowing slope, you're going to need to put a stake in the ground and figure out how many feet you've gone down. So you need a little line. It's called a line level. They cost about $2 at the hardware store. But you're going to put a stake in the ground at the high end. and tie a string to it, and it was a longer stake at the lower part, and tie a string to it, and you're gonna move the string up and down until it's level, and then you can measure on the taller stake how high the wall has to be at that point. So you can draw it on paper, now you know how long the wall is. And now for your other measure to figure out how much volume you're figuring, you need that drop, and that's what you're gonna have to figure with the string and the stake. We drew that, there's an article on that in drainage, if you put drainage into our search field, drainage or no, drainage, you'll find an article on doing that. Because then you can say, okay, I need a wall that is 30 feet long and on average 12 inches tall, and then you can figure out stone. And we've got an article on the stone too.
Yeah.
What's it called? Rocket science. Rocket science, we called it. Rocket science.
All right. In terms of the tracing of the Google Maps image, do you print those or do you trace them off the screen? I was saying that if you can trace off the screen, the light's coming through, which is nice, but I'm curious, people are curious about your process there.
I'd be worried about scratching the screen if I was using something on it. I would print it.
I don't like working this way. My hands don't like bending that way. I print them out and then I put them on a light box. And you can buy a light box for $10. We bought them for the grandkids
Yeah.
because they like to trace cartoon, comic coloring book pictures
Coloring
and
book
stuff.
stuff, yeah.
But I put it on a light box, the light shines through it. If I don't have a light box, and I've done this many times at clients' houses when I'm working, I'll put the paper up on the window, on a window, and put another paper on top of it and trace, because then I've got light coming through the window. But I don't like working that way, so I wouldn't work on my screen that way. Now you could on a laptop if you could lay it down, but I would worry about scratching it too,
Yeah.
or missing my mark and marking off to the side, because I quite often trace with markers.
All right, then we have some wrap-up questions here from Matt and Barb. They are they're having trouble getting trumpet creeper to take along their gravel road. Our soil's very clay. We're planting them near a ditch alongside the road. Any suggestions for getting them to grow?
Well, trumpet creeper, if that is,
Trumpet vine.
if that's trumpet vine, trumpet creeper, there's one called cardinal
is
creeper. If
trumpet
it's a
creeper.
perennial and it's trumpet vine, which is, what's trumpet vine's name?
Campsis.
Campsis. No,
Radicans.
that's bittersweet. Oh, no, it's Campsis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. If it's Campsis, Campsis, the chances are, if you've only been trying this for a couple of years, you're going to find in a couple of years that it's coming up everywhere. That it didn't die when you planted it, that it's just taking its time to take hold, and then you're not going to be able to get rid of it. But I'm wondering why you're planting it on the ground, because it doesn't really want to be on the ground. It creeps, but it creeps over the tops of things. So I'm not sure I can help you with that.
So they're chiming into chat that yes, it's the trumpet vine. Karen is also agreeing that she IDs it by calling it the devil, and so confirms it might be there, and you just think it wasn't there, and it'll always.
There are conditions that plants don't like, and it may be one of those places. But
they are putting in trellis, so they're using trellising along the.
I wouldn't give up on it if you've only done it, if it's only been a 2-year period. I wouldn't give up on it, because
vines sometimes take a lot longer
to really get hold and take off. But it may be sprouting and you just don't even realize it, because it's making little tiny green things that are, like Karen says, the devil in a very tiny package. But let's see, what else about trumpet creeper do I know? Where has it been? Because really hard packed soil can keep it contained. Really hard packed soil.
And if it's clay,
and if it's along the edge of the road, it might be that it is compacted there and the drainage is really terrible there, and you might have to move back a little ways, like 3 or 4 feet from the edge of the road, which is a good idea anyway, because digging close to pavement actually undermines the base of the pavement, and then the edge of the pavement crumbles on you. So you might want to move back a little bit and start it from back and let it creep forward. It's nice to have something at the edge of the road that you don't have to weed out, and if you can mow next to it,
It'll
that'll
do
keep it
its job.
controlled. Yeah, it'll do its job. Okay, sorry.
Then we have a question from Nancy is saying she's seen it grow through blacktop pavement.
Yes, yes,
Um,
it is an incredible plant. Yeah.
Margaret is saying that, and I'm going to have to go after this because this dog is insisting that I am done sitting in one place for the morning. Margaret says, "Hi, taking a family road trip to Tennessee the last week in March. Any stops worthwhile between Lexington and Gatlinburg? We're planning to spend some time at Lexington University Botanical Garden. Any other thoughts?"
I can't think of any place.
I always
else
just
on the
went
route.
to the Smoky Mountains and walked in the woods.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't think of any
you
place.
can't beat it.
Cause then, yeah, sorry, nothing
Yeah.
comes to mind right away, but if it does, I can definitely put
Well,
it into the chat.
there's a bunch of, in Gatlinburg, there used to be a bunch of little gardens in all the buildings. You know, there was a lot of little gardens to look at, but March, it may not be.
But I don't remember much between
Yep.
Lexington and Gatlinburg anyway. Mountains,
Mountains.
yeah. Oh. Okay, anyway, that brought something to mind of finding that nursery in the mountains. There's probably a number of really cool
Oh,
nurseries in there.
there might be, Cheekwood is further down in
You
Tennessee.
got till April?
Yeah.
Yeah, next time up, we'll see if we can come
Yeah,
up with.
late last week of March, but yeah.
Okay, well, we've got time. All right.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take off. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah. And thank you very much for being here, you guys. That's all for Measuring for Garden Design. Our next time that we'll be here will be 2 weeks from now, March 23rd, unless you're coming down to Columbus with me next week. We're going to focus on the spring startup, which means that we're going to be talking about all these things that are stacking up, needing to be doing.
And they
done
are
in
starting
spring.
to stack even with us going out.
Yeah, we really appreciate your support. We're glad for
Thank you
the
all.
new eyes that we've got here. We hope that you'll come back and support
Please
this
consider
too.
subscribing.
Yeah, please, please, please. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.